Hello there, welcome to this That'll Do painting tutorial. I'm not the best painter in the world. What I am relatively good at is fairly quickly getting through models. So this is me putting together and painting the Dwarfen Anvil of Doom. I did this a while ago and recorded a bit of time-lapse footage, however didn't quite get around to sticking it all in a video until now. In fact, I did it pretty much as soon as Dwarves were released, and then life got in the way. But anyway, this is a metal model, so we're going to have a little bit of a chat about how to handle metal. Apologies for the camera angles on some of these videos because they're not the best. I shall work on that in future. However, at the moment we're just assembling the model. Now, metal models, as you can see, have quite a bit of flash on them. We call it flash. These are all these little bits that you kind of just need to pull off or clip off or whatever. It's also really important to make sure that you've really clipped everything nicely and really filed everything down. Metal has this horrid ability to sort of mask mould lines, so you think you've cleaned it and then you undercoat it and you still think you've cleaned up a mould line, and then when you put paint on it's just there as though you haven't cleaned it at all. So just got to be a bit careful about how to handle it. So here we're clipping the bases and sorting out the horns and just cleaning up in general. One thing some people tell you to do with metal is to wash it in like soapy water or whatever, because there might be release agent on it. You get told that with resin as well, and you don't have to do it with Citadel Fine Cast because I don't think they've got a release agent. I mean, I've never bothered with metal, but then again I pin more or less everything when I'm using metal models, which we'll come to in a minute. Yeah, at the moment we're just still tidying up. Rather than use a mould line remover tool, I'm just using the edge of the clippers. It's the mould line remover tool is basically just a straight metal edge, and like it functions the same as like the edge of clippers. So if you haven't got one handy, I often find that using the edge of the old clippers works a bit better, to be honest. But yeah, so here we are tidying up still. And I think I'm clipping various bits off camera, so at the moment all you can see is my my hand pumping a bit, which is a bit weird. But there are loads and loads of, and you just got to be careful. And I if I was going to advise you to do anything when you're getting metal models, definitely like clip all the bits of flash off that you can see. Definitely inspect every single component at least 3 times, if not 4 or 5, because there will be little bits. And to be fair, like, I always miss bits anyway. Like, I think in this model, one of the long beards has a tiny bit of flash on the back of the coat. Yeah, here's me using. And yeah, finally we get to the time-lapse stuff, because I figured out how to do time-lapse on my phone, which is quite cool. So what did I anyway, so here's me assembling the thing. That's a multi-tool that I've had for about 15-20 years. I always pin as much as I possibly can, or as much as is practical. So there you can see the pins going in. what I wanted was not the position that's on the box, which is where the kind of the runesmith has the rune kind of just off the anvil. I wanted it like to be stuck to the anvil, because that's typically, you know, he's not flipping it over, he's just belted it basically, and he's drawn back for another blow. So I wanted it to look like there's kind of like magic coming out of the rune somehow, or there's some kind of power emanating from the rune. This was where I realised that I'd drilled the holes in the wrong place in the chimney. Luckily though, that where I drilled them in the wrong place was totally out of view anyway. This little staff thing is possibly the worst part of the model, because you can't pin it because there's already a hole in the base for it, and it's got a tiny little nub at the end of the staff that doesn't really fit in the hole in the base very well at all. So it's a pretty horrendous addition to the model, but you know, there it is. So we've just gone and got it undercoated. I'm using Citadel stuff for everything. No particular reason for that, just am today. I do have other things, but just using all Citadel for this model. So I've sort of done what I call wet brushing. I suppose other people probably call it wet brushing as well, which is not dry brushing, but you dry brush with kind of like a heavy amount of paint. So you're not like trying to achieve like a full coat. You are still trying to leave the occasional bit of darkness from the black undercoat. So there is an element of shading, but you are trying to get some pretty good coverage whilst leaving some like black undertones. The furnace is interesting because the model seems to be mostly made of metal, and there's like a red brick area where stuff is melted, and it appears to have a sort of kitchen extractor fan on the top and some bellows, which is a bit odd. That white stuff that I've done there, I've basically diluted some white paint, so it's basically white ink, and then sort of just let it drop into the runes that are on the base there. And what that does is later on, when I go over it with like a contrast paint or something, it'll make those runes pop out a little bit more. One of the things I think it's important to understand about like colour theory is this is basically Mornfrang brown going down on pretty much everywhere that's going to be brown. One of the things to understand about colour theory is that basically you need to break up a model with red spectrum colours and blue spectrum colours. So and purple and green are kind of like the other two colours that. So essentially the human eye has three different types of colour receptor. It can receive red, blue and green. So that's where the RBG colour patina comes from. It's from essentially what the human eye can detect in terms of like light bouncing off things. So everything you see is light bouncing off a thing and going into your eye. If it's daytime, that light has travelled all the way from the sun. It's taken quite a while to get here, a few days, and then it's hit the thing that you're looking at and gone into your eye. So we got red, blue and green are the three colours. Just on that, actually, I think you might have seen a bit ago that the fire I did was pink as a base coat. And that's because the best undercoat for yellow is actually pink. There's a complicated reason as to why. I won't explain it. And you can see here, you can see here that I've finished the this particular component. I was wondering whether to paint the runes gold, and I probably should later on, but I just thought it seemed a bit daft because that hood is going to be really hot. So if you put anything gold on there, it would just melt, so it would just fall off, and other metals probably would as well. I've used a lot of Agrax Earthshade gloss on the bellows to make them look a bit more sort of shiny and leathery. And as you can see, I've kind of dry brushed, so every time I've gone in to do a bit of the fire, I've kind of dry brushed around the fire a little bit to do a little bit of OSL. You don't want to go overboard on OSL. So this is me dry brushing the base again to get rid of the mess that I've created by sticking some Aethermatic blue over the runes. Now this is where I kind of fail the colour theory test, because what I was talking about is you want to break up blue spectrum with blue spectrum. So, but I wanted to do the runes striking in blue. I wanted this to be a very blue model in terms of how it feels. So here we are going over bits with grey. That'll be the hair. Then we're going to do gold again. Retributor armour, I think, is possibly the best gold paint that you can get out of the box. There are some guides as to how to mix better golds yourself, but I think value for money, Retributor gold's probably the best because it just works. And nobody's going to put actual flecks of gold in a paint, so you're not going to get something that looks exactly like gold, but I think Retributor armour is quite close. It's quite close. Here's me trying to fix a brush, and I've got some washing up liquid nearby, and I put a little bit in my hand and sort of swirl it around and try and fix brushes, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I almost exclusively buy dirt cheap brushes and just ruin them. I find that's, far easier. Stormhost silver goes all over the anvil and highlights the gold as well. Here I am inking up the horns and some of the metal work, and just trying to get some of the details to pop out a little bit, and then wicking away some excess ink with some paper just to try and build up some highlights and shades. Here we are going in with the skin. I've just used a simple recipe of Bugman's Glow and a bit of Reichland Flesh Shade, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I could have, with the runes, gone in for like a red, but I don't know, it just looked a bit dark, and that's not really the aesthetic I want to go for with my dwarves. I want them to be sort of I want them to feel like a wall of steel, as it were. So my blonde recipe is the two lightest yellows that GW do, mixed together with a bit of Reichland Flesh Shade. No, Pallid Witch Flesh as like an extreme highlight. The horns are just like normal bone colour, and basically what I do is I paint half of it with bone and then brown ink, and half of it with whatever the bone base colour is. Is it Screaming Skull or something? And then brown ink over the top of that, and then the layer paint that's the bone, Ushabti bone, I think, and then sort of paint 2/3 and then ink again, and then paint a half and then ink again, and then paint a third and then ink again, and then essentially doing those loads and loads of small thin layers. You essentially build up quite a nice. You got to do it both ways, so you got to build up shades and highlights. So this was me making a mistake, because I put Aethermatic blue on the rune and it didn't quite pop enough, because I forgot that there's another one. So I just, at this stage, after painting it white, I just thought, I'm just going to hit it with some Temple Guard blue, and then some Baharoth blue as like a highlight. And again, I kind of sort of did some kind of weird OSL-y type thing, but I also like, because I painted it very quickly, you're able to like blend the paints on the model. So the white in the middle of it just looks like it's just been hit, and the kind of the runic power is radiating out from the rune, which is kind of what I was after. But you see what I mean about like contrasting like red and blue spectrum on the shields, because with those little gold bits, as you'll see in a second as I spin this around, it kind of breaks up the model a little bit. The only model that has eyes is the Runesmith, and I have actually done the eyes, you just can't see it very well here. But yeah, I think this is a reasonable job. I mean, I haven't done the horns very well, they'll need touching up, but this is what I mean about, this will look good on the tabletop, like it'll look like a solid Anvil of Doom, and it took me 2 or 3 hours to do. Actually no, probably 3 or 4 hours to do, to be honest. But like, it's reasonably effective and it looks alright, even up close. So yeah, that's it I guess. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.